I'm going to post this probably onto YouTube or onto Microsoft Teams. But today I just kind of wanted to practice something new with you guys, and hopefully we'll work out the bugs as we utilize these platforms. If you don't mind, I'm going to mute you, buddy.
It just sucks because we can't join other people's worlds. What the thing?
Yeah, we can.
Excuse me, I'm just going to mute a couple people.
It's not working for me. It's just not working for me.
If you guys could self-mute as well, I'd appreciate it, just so that we can go through this lesson. Anyone who is still having difficulty with the webcam, I'll make sure to get you guys out here after this session. So once again, happy Wednesday. Hey, first off, I wanted to start off by wishing Emily a happy birthday. I know it's a little odd to experience this, and she's obviously not on, but for my kiddos here, would you please go ahead and sing Emily a happy birthday, and then we'll share this with her. On the count of 3, 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday to you. I'm a terrible singer. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Emily A. Happy birthday
to you.
Great job, guys. Cool. Camilla, how you doing?
Muted.
Good morning. Hey, so today what we're going to do is we're going to go through this slideshow. If you could please mute yourself, this would help us to roll through this, and then I'll open the platform back up. So if you find that you're talking or you hear someone else, just click on that little microphone and you can self-mute. We're looking to see if everyone is muted. There we go.
Hello.
Self-mute it. All right, cool, guys. So we're going to go through a poetry lesson. Feel free to just kick back and enjoy. So hopefully over the last couple days, you guys have been reading a variety of pieces of poetry. I shared Shel Silverstein with you guys as a kid. I loved Shel Silverstein. One of the things that you probably noticed is that poetry is differently. We don't refer to lines as sentences. They're referred to as lines, and you won't hear about paragraphs. Paragraphs are basically called stanzas. Some poetry will be numbered. The formatting is much differently, or it's formatted differently than narrative stories and nonfiction. So I'm sure you probably recognize that. Anytime that we read poetry, automatically we think rhyming. Think about all the CVC words, the consonant, vowel, consonant, the hat, the bat, the rat, the fat. This is actually how most of us learn how to read, the rhyming words. You guys know Ted Geisel, Dr. was very famous with those rhyming words. Usually we see that the words rhyme at the end of each line. However, here, sometimes rhyming can occur within lines. So, but we're most familiar with rhyming words at the end of each line. Once again, Seuss is very famous with that hello and that snow. Take a second. You're going to see here is an example of Dr. Seuss. And once again, you're seeing these lines aren't numbered, but they're lettered. And if you look at the first two lines, you're going to see the word rule and mule rhyme, right? In cat, me, and see. Spend a second and just read this example. I'm just going to check to see if anyone else has joined us. So I'm going to move forward. We are recording this. I'll send this to everyone who has not joined this session. So once again, you know, narratives are sometimes referred to, or people telling stories, as narrators. This poetry can be an object, it can be an imaginary voice, and often the speaker is talking to the reader, okay?
Dale el cargador.
You know, sometimes when you're reading poetry, you may get a sense that these poems are sad or happy, and when we refer to the words tone and mood, this is often what we refer to. If you don't mind, I'm just going to self-mute. There we go. Thank you for those who just joined us. If you don't mind, when you are accessing these platforms, please self-mute for the time being, and then we'll open it back up and have some discussions. My two girls, their teachers have been using Zoom, so I figured why not? But they actually use a signal. You can't really raise your hand with these platforms. They use the signal touching their nose, which is very creative, and that really allows us to keep organized. So we were talking about tone and mood, and you'll get a sense as you are reading these poems. Some are funny, some are sad, and sometimes obviously just the way that you feel when you're reading these poems influences your perception, how you perceive these pieces of literature. Free verse is something that really is something that most of us don't think of when we think of poetry. And I don't think often many kids don't like free verse. I'll be honest, I don't enjoy free verse only because there's not a whole lot of rhyming. It's almost just like a story, and you're like, what? It doesn't rhyme. And sometimes people have a hard time reading poetry that once again doesn't rhyme. So once again, unrhymed. If you guys have ever heard of a haiku, a haiku is very simple, basically 3 lines. And the first line has 5-syllable word, or a couple words that make up 5 syllables. And then the second line is 7 syllables and then back to 5. Kind of interesting, kind of neat. Obviously, when you guys were in kindergarten, you guys remember clapping out the syllables or putting your hand underneath your chin and then saying the word. And every time your chin hits your hand, that's usually a syllable. So not every haiku has to follow this 5-7-5 pattern. You're going to see from this example, there's not 3 lines. The next example definitely will. Okay? And if you read the first line, you're going to see 5 syllables, and that pattern that the Japanese poets follow. Very simplistic, but pretty neat. Okay? Concrete poems, really neat. Spend a second, kind of think about what these concrete poems are actually doing. So if you notice, you can see that there is a star and there is a bird. It's a ribbon, right? These poems are shaped like the object they're describing, which is very creative. And once again, raindrop. Spend just a second. You can read and take a look at these concrete poems. At the end of this session, I'm going to send you guys a Padlet link, and I'd love for you guys to create a few poems. Obviously, from experimenting with my 2 girls, they ended up following those CVC ending line rhyming poems. My little first grader was definitely influenced by Dr. Seuss. My 3rd grader kind of out of the box and created one poem that rhymed and one that didn't. So I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys experiment with. So once again, a concrete poem is shaped like the object we're describing. Narrative poems tell a story. You guys know that we do read fictional passages, and narrative is just that, a story. And so poems can tell stories. You're going to see that sometimes a ballad is a story. And if you think about songs, sometimes our musicians, they tell stories with their songs. So a poem is not much different. A ballad is sung. So ballad poems, once again, are poems that are sung. If you guys remember folktales, folktales are legends usually originated from cultures or groups of people that didn't have a written language. And so the way that they passed down their history was through stories. Think about Native Americans. Many tribes didn't have written language, so they told tales, legends, and although they probably were not sung, different cultures valued singing, and this is their way of preserving and telling history. Close out a few of these. All right, so here's an example of a poem. I'm not sure the origin or author, but once again, it's a nice way of often documenting a culture's history. Diamante poem, I'll be honest, I had never really heard of this, and I just wanted to share a few things with you. It is something that you guys, we have not really practiced much in third grade. If you guys remember in first and second grade, maybe in third and first, on that person, place, or thing, adjectives, descriptions, verbs, action words. And so it follows a format. And you'll see there are a few examples of that. So in just a second, you can see that I know some pet lovers love to think of the nouns of and adjectives and verbs of some of their pets, which is so very creative way of using parts of speech with Diamante poems. Cool. So, hey guys, this was short and sweet, and frankly, this was more to just join one another. As you guys know, many of us wished Emily a happy birthday, and really, frankly, I think it's really neat to get to see everyone. I'm going to start unmuting everyone. Thank you guys for being respectful. I know that many of us were able to problem solve, troubleshoot, and so I think that's what it's going to take. I think that's what it's going to take for all of us to be successful in this environment. Just roll with the punches. Stay positive.
Hi, Jaden. Hello.
Hey, this is I've noticed that some kids are chatting on Microsoft Teams, which is really cool. I really feel like the one thing that many of us are missing out with this distance learning is that social interaction. So hopefully over the course of the next couple of weeks, we can create platforms to say hello. So you can see everyone. I unmuted everyone. So you're obviously there's a lot of voice, and just enjoy the chaos. That's really what it comes down to. These are going to be stressful times. But welcome it, cherish it, and once again, thank you guys for all joining this session. Everyone. Please wave to one another, say, have a good day, stay positive, stay safe, and I'm sure we'll see you guys, we'll see you guys soon. All right? Room 39, bye guys. Parents, I will send out a little Padlet link that will give you guys the opportunity to share some poems that we created. Have a wonderful day, guys. We'll also send out a small little email helping you guys to fix your document camera if you had problems.
Mrs. 4. Mrs. 4.
Yes.
Our camera is upside down.
Yep, I understand that, and I just addressed that. I will send out a message to parents to fix any issues with their document camera or their webcam. All right. Bye, you guys. Have a wonderful day. Nice chatting with you all. And I'm going to end this session. I have recorded this, but we'll send it to everyone who was not in the session today. Be safe, guys.